I think as human beings, we have the right to provide safety for people who are fleeing war, who are fleeing persecution, who are fleeing terrible dangers. And some of these are very young people who've got no lives at all, unless some country gives them a bit of safety. And the least we can do is to give some of them a chance to have a life, to have an education, and to have some hope.
In my lifetime, there's, I think, been a real transition for the worst in relation to the way we think about refugees and the way they're treated.
If we could say the scale of awfulness is on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's about 11 at the moment.
In 1973, 92 people were held in under that power indefinitely. In 1988, that number had risen to 1,800. Last year, the end of June 2019, the year up to that point, 24,400 people were detained indefinitely in the United Kingdom under those powers.
18, I had a minor driving offence as a young kid, but as soon as I turned 18, so that means I'm not under my mom's care no more. So then I was detained, and being detained that young was quite strange because you're being detained without conviction, waiting for removal, and that removal is not coming. You're just basically sitting there. It's basically raised in detention center. It's like, you kind of hate the world, you hate the system, because the system doesn't stand for you. Like, everything is a challenge. Can you have rights and rights being taken from you? You can't work, you can't do the basic things of life. You can't go to the doctors because you ain't got no rights. Once you've been put under that rules, your rights has been stripped from you. It's like, and you're basically have to report and sign on every time. And when you don't sign on, they bring you back. Or when you go sign on, they bring you back. It's like you're in and out detention center. You don't know where you're going. They can say to you, oh, you're flying today, and you're not flying today. It's like you're in a limbo land. So this limbo land, for as being young, it drives you crazy because you don't know where your life is going. Only now I've got my life back. Only now that I'm working, I can support my own family now. And it took almost 10 years just to get that life back.
I got shocked in the beginning when I reached that camp, because I came with that idea that this is the developed land and the developed countries, and I was shocked that there were no services provided to us as refugees. 1 month and a half, I could finally get into the UK through a ship. I spent 24 hours in the detention center in the beginning. And when I was released, I came for an interview in which the police, they were interrogating me about like which country I came from and what nationality I held, and questions like this. Then I had to suffer for the next 6 months until I got the second interview in which I got the residency. And during these 6 months, the financial status was very bad. I could only make £5 a day. And from this little amount of money, I had to, pick up something and send it back to my family and wife back in Syria. It was a real suffering to me and to my family and children during these 6 months. No one could help me during these days. My language is not that good, and I tried to, in some cases, I wanted to avoid interacting with people so that I let them feel safe. And sometimes when I try to interact with them just to improve my English, I could feel the fear in their eyes. They have to go, like, they get a step back when they hear the word, when I tell them I'm a refugee.
They executed my dad, and I had an older brother who followed my father's footsteps. And there was a night, it was midnight, and the government rushed in and they took my brother away. So after a week, we didn't hear anything from my brother. So my mom decided to send me away to somewhere safe. So it was hard for me because I was only 14. I didn't get anything. I didn't know anything. After a week, I ended up in France. I was in Dunkirk for almost a year. I tried every night. I tried back of the trucks, like under the trucks, in the freezer lorries, I mean, every way possible I tried, you know. It was really hard, but yeah, after almost a year, luckily I did, they put me in a freezer truck. It was minus 20 degrees. And I was there with 13 other people with me. And we were inside for about 15 hours. Yeah, like I was praying to God, you know, I just want them to cut me, you know, in a border and then just tell me to go back to jungle, because I was really cold. And but because it was that cold, they didn't even open the truck. They opened it, they saw a lot of smoke comes out on the back of the truck. They said, you know, I don't think so anybody gonna go in, so they closed. And yeah, then the truck went to the ferry. Not gonna lie, I was a bit happy because I made it, but at the same time I was really cold. You know, I was like, you know, like I could barely move. It was that cold. And we made it to the UK, and then we tried to, you know, like to make a noise so the driver know we're inside, and then he could stop, but he didn't stop. He came all the way to Leeds. And yeah, so we tried. I mean, if I would say if we were inside for another minute or two also, we would have been dead all. Like literally we were like, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk. Most of us were like, couldn't even do anything at all. We were like just sat, and I was, you know, I remember I told myself, you know, I'm like, literally I'm gonna die. I went to the home office for, you know, they took my, they interviewed me, they took my story, and then they said they will let me know within the 6 months whether I can stay or not. Well, I had to wait for like almost 2.5 years, almost 3 years. I had to wait for them to tell me, yes, you can stay, or no, you cannot stay. And it was really, really hard for me because I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything, you know, like, and I didn't know when they're gonna let me know, obviously, because I couldn't contact them. That's the one thing I had really, you know, like problem with, like home office. It's really hard to get contact with home office. Like I couldn't tell them, okay, I'm still waiting for like what's gonna happen. So, you know, they just didn't get back to me. I remember I emailed them. They, after 4 months, they got back to me. They said, we still haven't decided yet. We'll let you know as soon as possible. Like I literally waited 3 years. After 3 years, they emailed me, my solicitor emailed me that I got refused. That they don't believe me, that if I go back to Iran, I will be like in danger. So then I told my teacher, and she was really sad. And then she made the petition for me, you know, like to stay in the UK. And then I even didn't notice that, but you know, I just saw it online. I was like, oh, it's about me, you know. And luckily, you know, everybody stand for me, and I got about 10,000 signatures from people that, you know, that not fair and stuff. And then I had to go to the court, and I went to the court, and my solicitor came to me. He said to me, is that 2 buses for you here? Like 200 people came to stand for me in the court. So it was like 210 students came to stand for me in the court, which was really good. I mean, I was really nervous, to be honest. I was really sad. So, but, you know, luckily after that, the judge, you know, believed me, and he gave me leave to remain for 5 years.
I spent quite a lot of time in the camp, discussed what had happened. Tents had burnt down because they'd had gas heaters in the tents, but it was very cold in the winter. And the tents had caught fire, and people couldn't get out in time. And the plastic of the tent just caught, and they died from burns. Some had. Horrible situation. And I sat down with one family on the carpets in the tent, and they very kindly gave me tea. And we sat there, we went through their lives. They were refugees. They were doing their best to look after children. And there was a very, very bright young girl. She was probably about 14, something like that, yeah. Very smart girl. And she was asking me a lot of questions. And I said, can I ask you one question? She said, of course. I said, what is your ambition? And she said, sir, she was very respectful, sir, I want to be a doctor. a 14-year-old girl in a refugee camp on the border of Syria and Iraq, ambition to be a doctor. And so I said, why? She said, to help people who are worse off than me. Amazing consciousness for a girl of that age. And to me, she's symbolic of what so many refugees are. They're people that have got in, for no fault of their own, a situation brought about by environmental disaster, by human rights abuses, by wars that we have been involved with in the cases of Iraq and Afghanistan. And around the world, there are 65 million people in that situation, either in camps or internally displaced, but wanting to get a future for themselves. And so can we just start to change the music and recognize that these are human beings that want to make a contribution to the world? They're not a threat. They're not trying to invade anywhere. They're trying to survive. And this country has, like every Western European country and the United States and Russia and lots of other countries, benefited hugely from the talents and skills of refugees.
Labour of all the parties has to be in the right place when it's international solidarity. So that means no illegal wars over there, thank you very much, and a bit more humanity and refugee protection over here. These policies are interconnected.